I was 2.5 years into a relationship with my girlfriend when things started falling apart. Toward the end, she began initiating breaks, leading to us breaking up, reconciling, and fighting repeatedly. Throughout this tumultuous period, I confided in my best friend daily. We talked on the phone, hung out regularly. He was with me every step of the way. He even convinced me to end things with her. But as soon as the breakup happened, he became unreachable when things really went downhill. That's when I discovered the ugly truth. My girlfriend had been cheating on me with him the entire time. Now they've moved in together, and I can't shake the feeling of being utterly betrayed. I trusted him completely, never doubting his loyalty. To learn that my girlfriend of 2.5 years was unfaithful was a blow. But realizing my childhood best friend was part of the betrayal, it turned my world upside down. How could I have been so blind to his true character? My best friend and I went way back. We'd been inseparable since high school, practically brothers. We kept no secrets, sharing everything. Relationships, life's ups and downs, and even our most embarrassing moments. Despite our bond, I'd never have set him up with any woman I knew. His track record with relationships was disastrous. Out of his 4 exes, 2 had cheated on him. One slept with multiple men, while another had a year-long affair. Meanwhile, he'd cheated on his 3rd girlfriend to be with his 4th. To top it off, he regularly hired escorts. The man had no need to work, thanks to his wealthy mother, who supported him financially. In contrast, I was the exact opposite. I had never even been close to a woman until this relationship. Looking back, I feel like the ultimate fool. The events. In early 2018, I met my girlfriend through a dating app. Things were good for the most part. Traveling together, spending time with friends, and growing as a couple. My best friend and his girlfriend often joined us, and we had plenty of double dates. When the pandemic hit, my best friend's girlfriend broke up with him and moved away. This left the 3 of us hanging out all the time. We'd play games, watch movies, or go out to eat. Occasionally, my best friend and my girlfriend would grab dinner on their own since she lived near his favorite restaurants. I thought nothing of it at first. He was my best friend of 20 years after all. She'd send me pictures of the food and casually mention she was with him. By the end of 2020, their outings became more frequent. My girlfriend started coming home later and later, but I brushed off the uneasy feeling because of the trust one had in both of them. January 2021. I began helping my girlfriend's family renovate a house they'd just purchased. During the weekdays when I wasn't at work, I was helping with the renovations. By March, I broke my wrist while tossing out wooden planks and had to undergo surgery. Despite everything, I was still planning a special trip for her birthday at the end of April. April 29th, 2021. I took her on a birthday trip, and on the second day, my best friend waited at our place with a birthday cake for her. He had also bought her an engraved iPad, which she was ecstatic about. Looking back, the whole situation feels so obvious now, but at the time I didn't suspect a thing. May 2021, Week 1. A week after her birthday, she called to break up with me. Her reasons? She claimed I didn't make enough money and that I was lazy for not having a second job. She even compared me to my best friend, saying he had the luxury of playing games all day because of his wealth. She also brought up that I wasn't the first person to wish her a happy birthday at midnight. I'd been 2 minutes late. When I asked who beat me to it, she replied, "You don't need to know." Later, I found out it was my best friend. May 2021, Weeks 2 to 3. A few weeks after the breakup, I called my best friend to confide in him. I hadn't shared any issues about my relationship with him before, so I thought he'd be shocked. But instead, he told me he'd recently had dinner with her and claimed she hadn't mentioned our breakup. He assured me he'd always be there for me, and I leaned on him heavily during that time. We spoke daily, often for hours. Little did I know, he was already deeply involved with her. How could I have been so blind to what was happening right in front of me? Both of them played me, and I just handed them the opportunity on a silver platter. May Week 3. She reached out to me, asking if we could get back together. I agreed, and for the next few weeks, everything seemed to be going smoothly. We even started discussing plans to save up and move in together the following year. As part of our rekindled relationship, we organized a 3-day vacation with a group of friends, which included my best friend. When I told him about the trip, he gave me what I thought was sage advice. You really need to reconsider moving in with her. She broke up with you when you needed her most, and that's a huge red flag. She's put you through so much already. Do you honestly see a future with her? His words were rational and made sense, so I took them to heart without any hesitation. May week 4, June, week 3. During this time, I began physical therapy to recover from my wrist surgery. A few women at the therapy sessions caught my attention, and I casually mentioned them to my best friend. With the memories of my girlfriend's earlier behavior fresh in my mind, I started doubting our relationship and shared these concerns with him. I asked if breaking up might be the right call, and even floated the idea of asking one of the women at therapy out. His advice, however, took me aback. He suggested keeping my girlfriend in the dark while pursuing other women, treating her as a backup in case things didn't work out. I was horrified by the thought. The idea of betraying her trust like that tore me up inside. I spent days crying over it, ultimately deciding I couldn't go through with such a plan. I knew it would devastate her, and I'd never be able to live with myself. June, week 3. Determined to fix things, I committed to working on both the relationship and myself. I dived into online relationship advice, opening tabs with titles like, When a Breakup and Is She Worth It? My girlfriend saw these open on my laptop during a visit and immediately confronted me. She accused me of being interested in someone else. In the heat of the argument, she revealed that someone else had asked her out during our relationship, but she turned him down because she was committed to me. Her anger escalated, and she texted my best friend to say she wouldn't be joining us on the group trip we had planned. I reassured her, admitting that while I had doubts, I genuinely wanted to make things work. I cared deeply about what we had built over 3 years and told her I was committed to giving it my all. After that, we patched things up and decided to proceed with the trip. June, week 4. Around this time, my best friend moved into a new apartment. He was busy furnishing it, so he asked me to help. Together, we set up a couple of TVs, a table, and a bed from IKEA. He mentioned how this was his new bachelor pad and shared that he was ready to jump back into dating. He'd been working out, doing cardio, and losing weight, and I had to admit he looked great. After helping him set up the bed, I told him, This is nothing compared to what you've done for me. You've been there for me during the darkest time of my life. He assured me that he'd never told her anything about our conversations when they hung out. I believed him completely. June 30th. That night marked the last time I could reach him through calls or texts. He picked up my call earlier in the day, but didn't respond later that night. From then on, it was radio silence. Later, I learned he'd been out to dinner with my girlfriend that evening and chose to ignore my calls to avoid making things awkward for her. For the first time, she hadn't mentioned their dinner plans to me. July 9th. The next time I saw or spoke to him was on the trip. He was the designated driver, since he had a car. In the past, I always rode shotgun while my girlfriend sat in the back, but this time she claimed to get carsick and took the front seat for the entire drive. During the vacation, things fell off. My best friend paid for everything: tickets, meals, and other expenses. He and my girlfriend spent most of the trip together, disappearing to play games at the arcade, gamble, or explore on their own. Meanwhile, I stuck with our other friends. At one point, a friend confided in me that there was gossip circulating among the group. People were snapping photos of my best friend and girlfriend together, asking whose girlfriend she really was. Over the course of the 3 days, my girlfriend and I didn't have any physical intimacy. The signs were glaring, but I was still too blind to piece it all together. During the ride back, after everyone else had been dropped off, it was just me and him left in the car. During our conversation, he casually mentioned that he'd recently been to the same spot with an ex-girlfriend, which is how he knew all the best places to eat and hang out. I asked him why he'd stopped picking up my calls, and he claimed he'd been busy setting up his internet and finishing his apartment. What I didn't realize at the time was that this trip had originally been planned specifically for my girlfriend, so she wouldn't miss out on a vacation. My reconciliation with her had thrown a wrench into his plans. In July to July 25th, my birthday. The week leading up to my birthday, things between my girlfriend and me had grown cold. She started taking hours, sometimes an entire day, to reply to my texts, a behavior that was entirely unlike her. She came over the night before my birthday, and I waited until 12:05 a.m. for her to mumble a half-hearted happy birthday. Feeling rejected, I tried to initiate intimacy, but she brushed me off, something she had never done before. Eventually, we did have sex, though it felt distant. This would turn out to be the last time we were physically intimate. My actual birthday was a complete disaster. She seemed distracted the entire time. She took me out to eat and gave me a gift, but left halfway through the day, claiming she had work to finish. That was the last time I saw her in person. Week of July 30th. In the days following my birthday, I went through the motions of texting her and having routine FaceTime calls, but the connection wasn't there anymore. On Friday, July 30th, I stopped texting her entirely. She didn't reach out until after 5 p.m., long after her workday had ended. I finally called her, and the conversation quickly escalated into an argument. Although we didn't explicitly break up, we ended the call on a sour note. In a fit of frustration, I confronted her about why she hadn't even gotten me a birthday card or cake. Her response floored me. She claimed she bought a card but hadn't written anything because she was afraid I'd leave her. As for the cake, she said she didn't get one because she believed it might be the last time I'd make a wish in front of her. I snapped, telling her I didn't care anymore, and she hung up on me. Mid-August. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't contact her at all. Then, out of the blue, she texted me to let me know her father would be dropping off my belongings and picking up hers. When her father arrived, he had no idea what had happened. He encouraged me to reconcile with her and admitted he'd love to see us back together. He even asked me to keep in touch. August 28th, D-Day. From the vacation to this day, about 6 weeks, I had been trying to reach my best friend without success. He didn't pick up my calls or reply to my texts. Then, during work, another close friend called me with news that blindsided me. My best friend and my girlfriend had moved in together and were officially dating. Apparently, my best friend had told this mutual friend earlier that morning, asking him to keep it a secret from me. Instead, the friend called me immediately to tell me everything. That evening, my best friend finally reached out to me. Here's how the conversation went, though I was so shocked my responses were disjointed. Hey, have you been? So, if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm dating her. It just happened. Me. Incoherent disbelief. I had no choice. I was feeling suicidal not being around her. Just being with her made me happy. She doesn't want to see or talk to you anymore. Honestly, I've always had your best interests at heart. She was terrible for you, but she's perfect for me. I asked how he even knew details like her birthday or favorite color for the custom iPad he gave her. He claimed it was just an effort to make her happy and insisted it meant nothing deeper. I would later find out that he'd spent months stalking her social media accounts to gather every little detail about her. When I asked how it started, he admitted he'd noticed the cracks in our relationship and saw his opportunity. She was disrespectful to you, and I liked her, he said. So I took my shot. I couldn't believe it when she actually agreed to go out with me. I hung up the phone that night in a daze, feeling utterly betrayed and questioning everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. I asked him why he never invited me to join when they went on one-on-one dinners or fancy outings he paid for. His response? I didn't want to bother you. You seem busy, he said. I didn't consider them dates. I just needed to see her, because if I didn't, I'd feel suicidal. Being around her was the only thing that kept me happy and alive. He added, Don't worry, until you two broke up, I never laid a hand on her. I'd never do that to you. I pointed out, You know that's emotional cheating, right? You two have been betraying me this whole time. His answer was dismissive. If that's how you see it, then I'm sorry. I asked him if he'd do it all again, knowing how deeply it hurt me. Without hesitation, he replied, Absolutely. 10 out of 10. She's my soulmate. I'd be shocked if I don't marry her. She wasn't a good fit for you, but for me. I pressed further. Why would he pursue her after I'd been completely transparent about all her red flags? He brushed it off, saying, You made mistakes that led to things spiraling. I can handle her. Honestly, I like her red flags. They make things exciting. When I warned him that if she cheated on me, she'd likely cheat on him too, he simply shrugged. That's totally possible, he said. It's a risk I'm willing to take. I'd even give her a one-time pass for cheating. Hurt, I asked why he would do this to me after knowing firsthand how devastating infidelity is. His response? I didn't think it'd be that bad. Give it time. You'll get over it. Weren't you planning to ask out that therapy girl? He added, You're still young. There are plenty of fish in the sea. This, despite the fact we're the same age. When I asked him about their physical relationship, he casually said, It's all right. You could probably find better out there. I was floored. Does it ever bother you? I asked. Do you ever think of me when you're with her? His answer was blunt. When you've slept with enough women, you don't think about that stuff. He even mentioned he'd been with hundreds of prostitutes, as if that justified his detachment. I told him, we never officially broke up. We just had a fight on July 30th. He acted surprised, claiming he didn't know. According to him, she called him on August 1st, just 2 days after our argument, and she was all over him. That's when he knew we were done. He added, She's been staying with me 70% of the time now. She's my live-in girlfriend. At the same time, my mother, who had been battling stage 4 lung cancer for years, was placed on hospice care. Her treatments had stopped working, and she was too weak for anything further. I reached out to my best friend, asking if he'd visit her one last time, knowing how uncertain her future was. His response? I'd love to, but I can't. As a final question, I asked, Am I your best friend? He replied, Of course, it's not even close. You helped me through my darkest times, and I'll always remember that. I couldn't help but tell him, You weren't there for me during my darkest time. Instead, you were the one causing it. His only response was, I'm sorry you feel that way. The call ended with him telling me he planned to lay low for 6 to 12 months and wouldn't be hanging out with me during that time. He advised me not to listen to anyone who suggested I cut him off and claimed he still cared deeply about me. He even said, I was worried about you this whole time, but I was just so busy. Tonight was the first time I had a chance to check in. His parting words were to only contact him if it was about closing joint accounts or sorting out bills with my ex. If it doesn't pertain to that, don't reach out, he said. He even had the audacity to add that if I wanted to talk to my ex for any reason, I'd have to go through him. I later discovered that my ex had blocked me on every platform, social media, phone, everything. There was no way to reach her or get closure. In desperation, I sent her 2 emails apologizing for my mistakes in the relationship. I told her how much I regretted hurting her and pushing her away, admitting that my coldness drove her to seek comfort elsewhere. I even gave my blessing for her and my best friend to move on together. All I asked was for one final conversation to bring closure to our 3 years together. But I was met with silence. I reached out to her father, hoping for some insight. He promised to talk to her and get back to me, but never did. To this day, I'm left with unanswered questions and a painful realization of betrayal from the 2 people I trusted most. I'm completely shattered. Losing my girlfriend of 3 years was already painful. A relationship where I'd envisioned proposing, building a family, and a future together. But losing my best friend of over half my life to betrayal? That has left me utterly broken. It's hard to put into words the depth of this pain. These were the 2 people I trusted most, who knew everything about me, and now they've both been ripped away from my life. And as if that wasn't enough, I'm also watching my mother slip away, battling the final stages of her illness. Meanwhile, I see them online, flaunting their new life, traveling, smiling, living what seems like a dream. They're so full of joy, sharing vacations and moments together, while I'm stuck here drowning in heartbreak. I've lost not just my partner and my best friend, but 2 of the most important people in my world outside of my family. And then there's the nightmares. I can't escape them. I see them laughing, smiling, intimate with each other in vivid detail. Even on the bed I helped them put together. Those images won't leave my head, and they've stolen my sleep. Some nights, I lie awake with a stabbing pain in my chest, haunted by the thought of everything I've lost. I wish I could wake up and find out this was all just a terrible dream. I wish I could understand how someone I considered a brother could do something so cruel. This was my first love, my first real relationship, and he stole that from me. My heart feels heavy, crushed under the weight of this betrayal. It's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone.